Good evening, fly tires. This is another late night broadcast from Texas Flycaster. We've got a special fly tonight. This one is derived from the Redfish Crack Fly, and it is just that much better. It's the Redfish Meth Fly. So I hope you enjoy the video, and of course, feel free to fast forward at any time that you don't like hearing my voice or seeing the video in real time. I don't think enough of these fly tying videos let you know that you can fast forward. If you have any questions, just let me know. Fly at texasflycaster.com. So here we go. So the first thing you want to do is go ahead and lay down your thread. I tie a lot of these tail sections first. This is what makes it more difficult. We're tying this on a fish skull 20 millimeter, and we're going to tie that closed backwards so that more of the weight is in that loop part of the fish skull articulation, so to speak, piece. I'm using a 210 Waxed Flymaster Plus. And the extra select craft fur, you can use tan or light brown. These colors are to imitate a mature shrimp. And you'll see that with coloring this tail, we're going to basically make it look like the sectional body of a shrimp, Texas style. Got to trim away that extra fur right there, and then we're going to lay some more thread in there. The thing about this thread, it's not a flat wax, it's just a waxed. And the thing about it that I noticed is it really takes on the UV adhesive really well. So what we've got to do with these flies, because of the way that redfish tear flies up just based on the fight they have, is you've got to make a really durable fly. And so that's what I strive to do, is make, in all the flies I tie, make a fly that's very durable, very long lasting. And you can see by my tying that I haven't done it in a while. That's a mess, but it all works out in the end, trust me. And if you do fast forward, there is a regular Redfish Crack Fly, how to tie that at the very end of this video. Golly, that's a mess. But anyway, so we kind of pull that out and get that straightened out. And usually what I do is I tie about half a dozen of these tail sections to begin with. And that really makes the job easier, actually, when it comes to assembling the fly and putting the tail, so to speak. It's really not a tail. It's really the actual most important part of this fly, I think. Because this is the sectioning where we take a Sharpie, and I've caught redfish. They don't sniff this fly for Sharpie or anything. So they're highly unselective. And the Loon Clear adhesive has become my new favorite. It's just really just a little bit lower volatility, I think, than some other brands. We're going to sharpen the hook just a couple of times. This is the Tiemco ceramic sharpener. We've got a C70 DT hook. Lay that thread base down and go ahead. That's C70 DT number 2 hook. Lay your thread base down. It's so important to put a little saddle of thread on your shank, and then go ahead and do your crossovers. That base of thread, what that does is gives a soft spot on an otherwise very hard shank. And once you really cinch those eyes in there and hit it with some more glue, you've got something really, really strong. Because I like flies that last a long time. I don't want to be sitting here doing videos about tying flies and doing the fly tying thing all night long. because I fish in the daytime mostly. So what I do is I tie them extremely durable. Now we're going to go ahead. There's that tail section that I pre-tied. That may be the different one from the one I originally tied. There's about 6 or 7 of them sitting on my bench at all times. What we've got to do is take that 30-pound mono, run it through there. This is the Mason Hard mono nylon. And you can use 25-pound as well, or 20 even probably. If you do that crossover like that, those are a little bit long, so I'm going to cut those down a little bit. But if you do that crossover like that, you'll find that it lays on top right there. You just grab it right there. It lays on top really nicely. And you will see that there's varying places you can tie that loop on there that has the tail section on it. And you will see that when I cut off the mono, the extra mono, I actually left a little bitty piece on the bottom because I couldn't see it from the angle I was at. You're looking at the video from the opposite angle, so I couldn't see this thing. But none of that matters. Redfish are highly unselective when it comes to flies. This just happens to be a fly that I used. I tied this version and took it down the last time I was at Port Aransas, Texas, and it just, not only did it catch fish, redfish, but it caught them like while the fly was on the move. And I don't consider this like a highly retrievable fly like a clouser or anything like that, but even on the retrieve, this fly, and your retrieve is totally different, on this kind of fly, but it really still performed quite well. Excuse me while I wet my throat. Oh, and now the orange crystal chenille gets tied in. Run the thread back to the front. And I use a rotating vise, but to make the video work, you can't rotate it. So we just palmer that forward, get it right behind the eyes right there. And a little technique, you go forward, you flip that over, you go to the back side like that right there, and that locks that chenille in there. You need to lock everything in. Like I was saying earlier, this is about redfish, and they really do put up such a good fight that they can shatter a fly pretty quickly. Going to finish that off right there, go forward, and now becomes the most messy and difficult part. And what we're using here is basically the Enrico Puglisi, and it's a bottle brush, so it's on a wire, and I take it off the wire however I can. It's very difficult to work with. I'm not a big fan of Puglisi, but this is what works. Get it off the wire and go ahead and tie in your top side loosely right there, and then kind of work that around so that it covers the eyes. The eyes don't matter at all on this fly. The eyes are a factor of weight. And you'll also notice that I did not tie in a weed guard, and I'll tell you about that. Flip the fly over, thank goodness for the Dyna King vise. And now we're going to tie in some more Puglisi fiber. And this is why I don't use a weed guard. I like the fact that the Puglisi fiber covers the hook somewhat and does prevent a lot of fouling you get from grass on the Texas coast. But as someone who's fished this fly, fished a lot on the Texas coast, knows a little bit about the conditions there, caught plenty of redfish there, that's kind of where you're at right there. And you notice the shank hanging at the back, and that adds the articulation we're after that takes this stuff from crack to meth. So we're getting close to being done with this fly. I'm going to trim around the eye because I need to be able to actually tie it on my leader. Kind of pull everything back, give it a few more loops. And at some point, we will be done. I'm a mess maker, aren't I? A dream breaker. The great thing about Puglisi, though, is you can always brush it back. And these flies, the Puglisi fiber, for some reason, it seems to perform better in the water than it ever performs on the bench or in the air. So as we're doing this, let me just think more and tell you more about how to work this fly. It's you got to get in close to the redfish. It doesn't have a weed guard. You get maybe 3 strips, and these are kind of strips that think in terms of actually a shrimp that runs and tries to get away from redfish and is digging itself down in the grass. That's what I think this is. With the way it's weighted and the way that tail sticks up now, it actually emulates a fleeing shrimp. And there it is. That is my version, the Redfish Meth Fly. And I think that if you tie this fly, you will have a lot of success. Please tell me if you've tied this somewhere else in the United States, anywhere else. Try this fly. You know, the variation here is, I think, interesting, and it's way underutilized as far as articulating flies. There's a lot of different ways to do it. Look at that tail shake on that. It's amazing. Amazing. So we'll trim that up just a little bit more. And then once this video is done, we kick right over into the Redfish Crack Fly. So stay tuned. The real simple to tie Redfish Crack Fly, much more simple than this fly, is coming up right now. Same kind of deal with the Redfish Crack Fly. Tie that eye. That is a 4.8 millimeter allenflyfishing.com barbell eye in brass. They call it gold brass. And what it is gold over brass. And I actually take those eyes and put them in an airtight bag so that they don't tarnish. It seems like these eyes actually start to tarnish. There's the difference right there. Instead of articulating the tail on a typical redfish crack fly, what we do is just tie the tail in. And, I don't know, what happens in North Carolina with this, South Carolina with this fly, Georgia, but you guys need to try this fly out if you haven't already. I'm sure you have. Some of you have. But tell me how this fly works out there. As you'll notice, I also use my UV, my Loon UV, to secure every single piece of these flies. And I promise you, they are bulletproof. So that's one thing. We're going to palmer that over, just like we did in the previous video of the meth fly. Go up behind the eye. Take our 210 waxed thread and lock it in. And just for the sake of completion, we're going to show how we struggle to get the Puglisi fiber on in front of the eyes to cover everything. This is one fly that I believe is more representational, more of a stimulator pattern for redfish than an actual visual pattern like a clouser, so to speak. I don't see, I have yet to see any seasonal refusals. Year round, this fly works. You'll notice that because we cover the eyes like that, you get the idea pretty quickly it's not about the eyes. It's about the actual weight of the eyes and putting the fly down, hook up, that makes it work. Now, after I get done with this fly, what I do is I take it off. I lay the tail section between two pieces of folded paper to give me my distinct line on the extra select craft fur, and those will give me my body breaks that emulate shrimp. So we're just about done with this fly, trying to clean it up, get back there, finish it up. And the color on that thread is like what's that called? I don't remember. I think it's called like a bronze. It's a really weird color. I've only found a little bit of it. And it's a really nice color for what we're doing here. Again, we got to clear that eye from the puglisi fibers, because if you don't clear the eye and you have some of this loon or any kind of a hard curing UV cure on there, it will cover that eye and you will not be able to even crack it with another hook point. So make sure that you clear that first before you hit it with glue. And there we have the Redfish Crack Fly. Typical of the Texas Gulf Coast, and a fly that is also very deadly, but not as deadly as a Redfish Meth Fly. Meth will kill a redfish. Thanks for watching. As always, get back to me if you have any questions.